Once feared across Asia, the Yakuza were Japan's most powerful and infamous mafia. For decades, their tattoos, rituals, and ruthless control over entire industries made them untouchable. But today, their empire is collapsing. Once boasting over 180,000 members, they're now fewer than 25,000 and shrinking fast. So what happened? This isn't just a story of gangsters losing power. It's a story of how a nation changed the rules of the game. From legal crackdowns to social rejection, Japan has quietly dismantled the very roots of the Yakuza's influence. In this video, we'll explore the shocking rise and slow fall of one of the most iconic crime syndicates in modern history, and the lessons it leaves for the world. The Yakuza's origins trace back to the 1600s. Contrary to what many believe, they didn't start as mere criminals. Some came from takiya, peddlers, and bakuto, gamblers, outcast groups operating on the fringes of society. Others romanticize their connection to rogue samurai, the ronin, who were left without masters after the fall of feudal Japan. Over centuries, these groups merged into organized clans with their own codes of honor. They adopted rituals based on loyalty, family, and strict hierarchy. A Yakuza member wasn't just a thug, he was part of a Ninkyo Dantai, or chivalrous organization. They provided protection in the chaos of post-war Japan, ran black markets, and sometimes even offered disaster relief before the government could respond. But behind that public face of order and loyalty was a ruthless machine of extortion, drugs, human trafficking, and illegal gambling. The Yakuza weren't subtle. Their bodies were walking canvases, covered in irizumi, traditional Japanese tattoos that told stories of dragons, koi fish, and demons. These tattoos weren't for show. They were proof of endurance, inked in pain over years. Another chilling symbol, the ritual of yubitsume, cutting off a finger as an apology or punishment. A severed pinky was a sign of shame and loyalty. Initiations were sacred. The Oyabun Kobun system, father and child, bound members through loyalty. Once inside, betrayal wasn't an option. Their ceremonies mirrored religious rites. But instead of salvation, they offered power and belonging to the outcasts of society. By the 1980s, the Yakuza weren't just gangsters. They were businessmen. Japan's post-war economic boom created endless opportunities. The Yakuza infiltrated construction, finance, and real estate. They extorted companies, ran front businesses, and even had offices registered with local police. At their peak, they controlled billions of dollars. Politicians, celebrities, and corporations all looked the other way, or worse, shook hands with them. The largest syndicate, the Yamaguchi-gumi, became a corporate empire with over 20,000 members. Its boss was as feared as any CEO. They were out in the open. Magazines published rankings of Yakuza families. Their weddings were televised. The line between crime and power blurred completely. In 1995, a devastating earthquake struck Kobe, Japan. As the government struggled to respond, the Yakuza moved fast, providing food, blankets, and medical aid. For some, it was seen as proof that they were a necessary evil. But others saw through it. The Kobe earthquake also marked a cultural shift. Younger generations no longer idolized gangsters. The media began exposing the Yakuza's dark side. Victims of extortion spoke out. Public tolerance began to crack. The romantic image was fading, replaced by fear and disgust. And the government was about to make its move. In 1992, Japan passed the Anti-Yakuza law, officially designating the Yakuza as violent organizations. This changed everything. Police no longer had to tolerate their presence. Businesses were banned from working with them. Landlords couldn't rent to them. Banks closed their accounts. Even vending machine companies stopped serving them. The pressure only increased. In 2011, new laws made it a crime for ordinary citizens to do business with Yakuza. Being associated with them could now ruin your life. Yakuza members found themselves unable to rent apartments, open bank accounts, or even get a phone line. Some turned to cybercrime, others went underground, but many simply left. It was a slow, quiet strangulation, not through violence, but through bureaucracy. The crackdown worked, but it also triggered chaos within the Yakuza. In 2015, a major split rocked the Yamaguchi-gumi, the largest Yakuza family. A faction broke away and formed the Kobe-Yamaguchi-gumi, igniting turf wars and infighting. Without money, public fear, or police tolerance, the families started eating themselves. Recruitment dried up. Young people weren't interested in a life of poverty, surveillance, and mutilation. And with declining members, rivalries grew deadlier. The once mighty Yakuza became a fractured shadow of its former self. Ironically, weakening the Yakuza didn't eliminate crime, it just changed it. In place of the Yakuza's strict codes and visible presence, Japan now faces hangure, loosely organized, lawless gangs with no clear hierarchy. These groups are younger, more brutal, and harder to track. They operate in the shadows of nightclubs, cryptocurrencies, and cyber scams. Unlike the Yakuza, they don't follow a code. There's no honor, no rituals, just profit. The fall of the old guard made space for something even darker and more unpredictable. The Yakuza may be fading, but their legacy lingers in Japan's culture, art, and politics. Movies and anime still portray them with a mix of fear and admiration. Their tattoos have gone from stigma to style, and in some parts of society, older Yakuza are still seen as necessary evils, especially in rural areas. But most of Japan has moved on. The streets are cleaner, the silence louder. Still, the story of the Yakuza isn't just a Japanese tale. It's a global lesson in how organized crime adapts, survives, and sometimes dies not with a bang, but with a signature and a frozen bank account. While other countries fight organized crime with bloodshed, Japan fought the Yakuza with paperwork, laws, and social pressure, and it worked. It's a rare example of how a culture can reject a deeply embedded criminal system. Not by force, but by refusing to play along. And maybe that's the most powerful thing of all. A society choosing to say no.